Alan Koch, FC Cincinnati head coach.
So it's great to finally talk to you, Alan. You've been here for over a year now. This is a second season as the head coach. And I realized when we were setting up the interviews with the players that we never sat down and had this conversation with you as the new guy.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to do that this year to get the fans maybe to know you a little bit better, not just as the head coach, but as a person.
Okay.
So maybe you can tell people a little bit about your soccer career before you coached.
Long story, and I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. Born and raised in South Africa. Played in South Africa in the first division. I signed when I was 17 years old. Went to Germany, was with the second division team in Germany first. Wasn't good enough to play at that level. Went to a fourth division team, probably more suited to that sort of level. My family actually immigrated at that time to Canada. Was going to go to a few different schools in the States on scholarships, and because they moved to Canada, I wanted to be closer to them. So a big part of that was going to Simon Fraser University. It's a great academic school with a good soccer program. I played there in the mid-90s. Then I went back to Europe. I played in the League of Ireland. At 25, I believe it was, I had to stop playing professionally. Tried to use my undergrad degree and went into business, and I sold light fixtures. Nothing against people that sell light fixtures. For the 6 months of my life where I was not involved in soccer, I did not enjoy selling light fixtures. My old assistant coach became the head coach at Simon Fraser, and this is how I got into coaching. He asked me to come be his assistant coach. I think it was for $5,000. Don't quote me on the actual dollar amount, but it certainly wasn't much. And I jumped at the opportunity, and I've rolled with it ever since. So I was there. Then I went to Japan for a season. Then I went down to Texas for a few years, Kansas for a few years. Then I got offered the head coaching job at Simon Fraser again. So played there, was assistant coach, and then the head coach there. I was there for 7 years. They became the only non-American school in the NCAA. Then I got asked to go work as a scout for the MLS team, the Vancouver Whitecaps, and then went from scouting for them to being responsible for the draft, working with the first team, and then became the head coach of the USL team, and then came over to FCC in a role wearing multiple hats, and then became the head coach of this club.
And still wearing multiple hats.
Yeah, doing a lot. We're a club. I know people have said rise together and all that, and I think we really are rising together. Obviously, I'm the head coach, but I do a lot of other things, just like every other employee of the club does. I think we're very, very lucky to have all the different people in this club working in the different departments that are really willing to roll up their sleeves and get themselves dirty and go out and try build something that we built here over the last 2 and a bit years.
I think a lot of our fans are going to be very happy to hear that you did not stay in the light fixture business, that you did come back to soccer and ultimately joined us here in Cincinnati. Why don't you fill us in a little bit on some of your coaching credentials? I know you've been very actively working on them in Canada, and I understand now USS as well. I tore my ACL when I was 18, playing in South Africa, and I had no interest in coaching whatsoever. And the club I was playing for actually recommended I try do some sort of coaching courses while I was out injured and rehabbing. So I did all my licenses in South Africa at a very, very young age. And then I'm trying to think where I went next. I did all of my coaching courses through the NSCAA in the US, and then I went over and did my UEFA licenses. And then because I was coaching in Canada, I went to do my Canadian A license. Canadian A license sounds kind of funny if you know the Canadians say A all the time. And now obviously being in the US, I'm going to go complete my USSF A license too. So you got your AA.
I'm going to have an AA and an A. I've got multiple licenses, obviously, from different countries, and I feel glad that I've done that because it just exposes you to different methodologies. You don't just go down one path and think in one certain way. Being exposed to the UEFA experience, I've been exposed to the Canadian one. My South African licenses were decades ago now, and now obviously doing the USSF. It's all just lifelong learning, really. As coaching never ends, you've got to continue to evolve and improve as we go along through this journey.
Yeah, and each one of those licenses has given you something different to think about, something unique. So
yeah, I feel if you can go on any course, and I don't just think this in soccer, in any sphere, and you go on a course and you learn one thing, well, you've improved. You hope to go learn more than one thing on these courses, but if you do gain one thing, that makes you a better coach and it makes you a better person too.
So let's talk about you as a coach. What would you say was your most memorable moment as a coach?
Tough one. My first coaching experience was way back when I tore my ACL when I was 18 years old. So I actually went back and it was a very, very informal situation, but I coached my high school the year after I graduated. Because I was injured, I actually went back and coached the guys there. So that was my first experience. Certainly wasn't my most memorable by any means. I don't think we had a successful season. But going to back-to-back NCAA Final Fours was pretty special. You go through a long run in the NCAA tournament to get that far. So that was pretty unique. To get to an NCAA Final Four once as an achievement, to go do it in back-to-back years was pretty special. Which other experiences? Taking my team in Vancouver to the USL Western Conference Final was very, very special too. Last year, going to the US Open Cup semi-final was huge too. So I feel very fortunate. I think in the last 10 years, I think I've been to 5 essentially Final Fours, either as a college coach or in the USL or in the US Open Cup. So I've enjoyed all of them equally. The one I have the fondest memories of is the most recent. It was incredibly fun last year for me, for all of us to have the run we did, and I think that's definitely whet the appetite of our club and our fans in terms of having good playoff type runs. And a cup competition is a playoff competition because it's single elimination and it's win or go home type of deal. And I thrive on those experiences. I think that's something that I've enjoyed, all those experiences, and I enjoy that type of pressure. 90-minute game, 120-minute game, penalty kicks. It's can you and your team step up to the plate?
Yep, absolutely. And it's a different mindset than a league game where you certainly want the 3 points, but if you don't get it this one, maybe you can get it next one. It's a long season, but like you said, it's one and done in those cup runs. So. Yeah,
it's a very different type of game. How you prepare for it is completely different too. Obviously, we've done this for many, many years. Is you prepare for a cup game, your preparation is completely different because you prepare for 90 minutes, but you're going to have to prepare for penalty kicks. So we'll practice penalty kicks for days on end before we get there, and we'll keep track of every player, how they do. So we try to take as much of the subjectivity out of it and make it a bit of an objective exercise in terms of who should be taking those penalty kicks. So you prepare for like that for a cup game, but you wouldn't do that for a league game.
No, certainly not, because there probably shouldn't be any penalty kicks at all.
Yeah, you would hope not, but you never know.
Do you follow any teams? I mean, you've been all over the world playing in different leagues and such, but do you follow any teams outside the United States? Do you have a favorite European team or anything you're consider yourself a fan of?
I've been an Arsenal fan since 1984. It was the first time I went to London. I went to Petticoat Lane. An English guy was selling scarves, and he tried to sell me a Manchester United scarf, and the guy literally at the next stall came running over and was like, "You don't need that, you need this," and he was trying to sell me an Arsenal scarf. And I was a kid, I was with my dad, and the Man United guy was like, "You need to buy this scarf." The guy at the next door was like saying, "You need to sell this scarf," and my dad was literally like, "You have to choose." And I didn't have a team at the time, and I think I made the right decision. I chose the Arsenal scarf. I was a huge Arsenal fan for a good few decades, but I think when you work in professional sports, your ability to follow other teams definitely dwindles. You focus more on watching your own team play and watching the USL and the MLS. So I'm definitely not a huge Arsenal fan anymore. I follow them, of course, more than I follow any other club. But the club I'm the biggest fan of is the club I work for, and that's really the reality of it. Is I get to lead this club, but I'm a true fan of what we're doing.
Well, I was wondering when you were saying that you were a Gunners fan, whether that was maybe like part of your requirements for selecting your team, because I think about a third of the players for FCC have indicated that they're Gunners fans.
Oh, good. So I got some intelligent guys then. So.
Yeah. and only one for Man U. I wonder what that says.
Yeah,
we'll have to talk to Nick about that. Anyway, so besides soccer, do you have anything off the pitch that you're passionate about? What do you do when you're not doing soccer? Which it doesn't sound like there's a lot of that.
Yeah, I don't have much time, to be honest, and it's probably a good thing. I love what I do. I'm very, very passionate about it. It's something I think about every single day of my life. My wife will give me a hard time. We try to get to the beach in the off season. I grew up on the beach in South Africa, and I and her and our whole family all love going to the beach. But even when I'm there, I'm working. I want to work and try and improve myself and try and improve our team and try and improve the club the entire time. So I do like getting at the beach though, and that's something I thoroughly enjoy. I grew up at the beach with my family. My mom and my dad were both surfers, and I was exposed to the beach at a young age. And any chance I get to go back to the beach, I feel like I'm a kid again. Yeah,
and a lot of our listeners and fans are probably aware that you spent some time in Hawaii before the season started. And I think you were working in Hawaii, which most people just probably can't imagine how that happened.
Yeah, we were there for a good while, so it was awesome. We were able to go back and relax and have a good time. But I was working every day, and I have no problem saying I was working every day because I enjoyed it. And thank goodness my family are very understanding of what this job means to me. So I feel very, very supported and lucky from that perspective. But we put in a few hours while there, but we also had a good time too. I was able to go out surf with my daughter, who learned to surf in Hawaii several years ago, so we both enjoyed doing that together. And then I grew up body surfing, and just going out and acting like a bit of a clown in the ocean is something that just, when you're on the water, you don't think about anything else. It's a lot of times it's about just pure survival. It's like, can I survive and not get destroyed by these waves? So you don't have a choice other than let me get through this, and once I get back on the land, I can think about other things.
Well, it sounds like it would have been a great vacation, despite the work. But anyway, let's talk about the team a little bit. So we've talked a little bit. You've been on the podcast already, and we've talked about some of the players you brought in and how important character was as far as the selection of these players. And I think even talking to the team so far here at IMG, we've really got a sense that everybody really feels that this is just a good group of guys. Everybody's really clicking really well. But I'm wondering, is there anybody in your mind that maybe even surprised you a little bit? Because I know you selected them all thinking you knew what what kind of people you were bringing. But was there somebody who's just stood out a little bit, a little special?
In terms of character or ability, or
character? I mean, sure, ability too, but you know.
I feel, to be honest, I feel pretty fortunate in terms of the group that we put together, because there's three streams of players we brought in. There are the guys that we worked with here last year, who I got to know over the course of that year, and I have a lot of confidence and belief in them. And then there's other players that I've coached before, who I feel the exact same way about them, and they know how I work and I know how they work too. And then the third group is the group that we really went out and researched the most, because we didn't know them that well. We had an idea of what they were like as people, and we respected how they played, but we put an extra effort in really going in, figuring out who they were and how their families work and all that type of stuff. So nobody's really surprised me in any way, which that may sound like a bit of a bland answer, but we had a pretty good understanding of exactly what these guys were going to be like before they came in, and they've come in exactly how we knew they would be. They're all just great guys, full of energy, and you can tell they're all ready to embrace the challenges that lie ahead.
Yeah, and a few of the players, especially the ones that were coming from further away, have actually commented how significant it was to them that you made a trip to see them, to watch them work, to talk to them, to see them in a training environment, that they felt that was a level of detail that FCC showed that really sold the club to them. So obviously you've done some good research, and nobody's doesn't sound like we have any bad apples in the bunch at all. But not everything can be serious, right? So sometimes you got to have a little fun out there, and I'm sure you have some jokers. And I don't know how much you encourage humor and joking, but who would you say maybe is the jokester of the team at this point? Jokesters, maybe there's more than one.
I'm a pretty serious guy, as you probably have figured out, and I take what I do very, very seriously. I like to have fun too, and so I encourage it being nice and relaxed at the training ground. I think it puts people in the right mindset to get to work. We have a bunch of jokesters. Mark Village, I've known him for several years. He's a huge prankster. I wasn't there last week, but you've probably heard about it. He was resuscitating a mannequin, which I wish somebody had got that on film. Emmanuel Ledesma's an absolute jokester. He sets off fireworks, or imaginary fireworks, on the training ground at times, and has the sound effects to go with it.
He wouldn't do it on camera for us.
You'll have to be watching training. You'll see it. He does it every now and then, but he says
he's saving it for his first goal celebration.
Yeah, it'll be a pretty special one. So,
okay, good.
And I hope and I believe we won't have to wait too long for that goal to come, because he's been pretty impressive so far.
as far as leadership, right? I mean, obviously, at some point you're going to have to select somebody to wear the captain's armband, but we all know that there'll be more than one person on this team with a voice that kind of maybe rises a little above the rest. Who's standing out to you at this point, kind of showing that mentoring or just that calming presence that's required at different times?
I think a lot of our veterans, and that's why they're here. They're here not just for their ability, but they're here for their leadership. Obviously, Justin Hoyt, he's more the leader who leads through his actions. He definitely speaks when needed, but he goes about his work in a very, very professional way, and you can tell the young guys love and respect him for that. Deckel's come in, and he's been everything we knew he would be. To be the leader of a pretty big club like Maccabi Haifa for as long as he has been, I'd be very surprised if he didn't come in and be a major leader for us. Kenny's come back, and obviously he helped with the leadership last year, and he's doing the same thing again this year. I think all of our older guys are natural leaders. They've all been in the game for some time and been exposed to different situations, and they can help the guys out either vocally or even on the side in just some informal chats, just help the guys out and guide them through situations. Because as beautiful as this game is, and as beautiful as people think it may be to be a professional soccer player, it's not always easy. We go through a lot of ups and downs, and it takes guys having leadership to go out, and obviously they have to take care of themselves, but also help the other guys out too. And that's not just the young guys. There's older players that have challenges too. It could be injuries, it could be playing time, being away from home, life situations, and that's something I think that the older guys, the guys that have experience, can help out with, as well as us coaching staff. We've been fortunate to expand our coaching staff now, and I think we have some great leaders on our coaching staff that can go out and help older players too.
Yeah, it's definitely, you can see just that progress every year. It's very nice, especially like Coach Barry, which I guess he hates being called Coach Barry. But yeah, nice to see him finding his voice in the staff as well. So
yeah, it's awesome to see Austin. You see where that end of little season camp in November, where, and to be honest, Austin was very, very raw, and to be expected. He literally was retiring from playing the game at the exact same time. But already between November and now in February, I've seen him grow immensely as a coach. I almost feel like he's growing every single week. So it's exciting to see a guy who played for us, who was our captain, embrace his new role. He's excited about the new role, and see him grow as we continue down this road.
And then typically when I'm talking to your players, I'm asking them about Cincinnati because it's new for a lot of them. A lot of them never seen the city, never been to the city. Yeah. You're in a different perspective from them, having been in the city for quite a bit. But maybe back up a little bit and get come back into your a year ago when you started to show up for the club. What were your impressions of the city? What surprised you about Cincinnati when you came here?
You know what, I'm going to speak from the heart right now. I didn't really know much about Cincinnati before I came. It's right or wrong, it doesn't get the same exposure as an LA or New York or Miami does globally. And I think that's probably a good thing. I take it as a little bit of a undiscovered gem. It's an amazing city. It really is. And I've been fortunate through this journey of this game to live in some beautiful cities and live in 6 countries. But the people in Cincinnati make it what it is. There's a warmth and a genuineness to the people. And somebody who's come in the city, you can feel that right away. And then I just love the diversity of the city too. Diversity in people, diversity in geographic landscape. I think the hills give it something different. I think the river, the beauty of both sides of the river. I enjoy different communities all over the place. So it's a beautiful city. It really is. And I think it might be a good thing that the whole world hasn't discovered it yet, because otherwise we'd have millions and millions of people wanting to come. So I think it's almost the perfect size. It's not too small and it's not too big. I know some people in Cincinnati complain about the traffic, but in comparison to other places where I've lived, it's very, very manageable. And it's just a nice place to live and to go out. And for us in this business to come work, it makes it thoroughly enjoyable.
So is there any maybe little restaurants or coffee shops or shops that you've just found have been like your favorite since you got here?
This is going to sound really lame. Having been in the Pacific Northwest for a long time, I became a Starbucks junkie, so I do go to Starbucks way too often, and they know my drink when I walk in. Restaurants-wise, there are some amazing restaurants. There really are. I like going to Red Feather. It's a great restaurant to go to. I like going to Soto. I've been to Skyliner once. I said when I went I'd go once and I'd make it my annual trip, so I went once last year. I'm going to have to figure out when I'm going to go once this year. Unlike the players, I can go during the season, so we'll figure that one out. There's others that are eluding me right now, but there's some great places to go.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just very proud of our city, so it's always nice to hear people who find those little corners and what they enjoy. So
yeah.
Anyway, it was great talking to you. I hope our fans maybe learned a little bit more about you than they realized. And
awesome.
You're more than just a coach.
Cool. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks,
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.